Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we're going to take a look at a Dean EVO XM. Why do I have this guitar? Well, it was kicking around on my local Facebook marketplace and I figured, hey, 50 bucks, why not? This guitar is made in China. It sells at all the major retailers, including Amazon, for a little under 200 bucks. But the reason why I wanted to buy it and review it is it reminded me so much of the Paul series from the 70s and 80s that Gibson did. It's got that same natural walnut vibe going on. And in fact, if you just did another little cutaway right here and shaped it right, you could make this like a 335S as well. So this is how I picked it up just today. We need some new strings, the fretboard needs conditioned and cleaned, we need to dust off the headstock, but I figured, hey, while it's available, we might as well do a quick review. So the body is made of a wood called this. Now how do you pronounce this? If you think it's time for Halloween with Paulownia, you're wrong. Think Pau P-A-U right here. Think the Muse song Knights of Sidonia. Or get yourself a nice big sandwich of bologna, Paulownia. And it comes from the Empress tree. But if you're looking for specs for this thing online, there seems to be wild variations. Other things also call this basswood, which maybe there's different runs. But the specs I'm quoting come directly from Dean's website. The fretboard is supposed to be walnut. Sometimes it's listed as rosewood, but I would definitely agree with walnut on this one. And the neck is maple. It's a bolt-on neck construction. We've got a Les Paul layout with a bridge and tailpiece, as well as two humbuckers, and you have a simplified layout here. But let's go ahead, throw it on the workbench, and take a look at its parts. Usually when I think about Dean guitars, I think of something like the Dimebag models or the Razorback. I'm thinking Flying V Explorer mixes and SG Flying V mixes, but as far as Deans go, as a traditional guitar guy, I thought this was tasteful. And I thought the name EVO was very interesting. What that stands for is Evolved from Vintage Origins. So yes, they're essentially calling this a Les Paul in a very sneaky and kind of confusing way. Alright, I've got it all taken apart and cleaned now. The pickups that are in here are what Dean called the DMT design pickups. They're meant to be for blues and rock. To me, they just look like your standard import Epiphone-like pickup, but you can see a yellow wire coming out of the neck and a red for the bridge. Now the cavities themselves, I was actually pretty impressed with the way these looked. Sometimes Chinese routes can be kind of iffy looking, but this, it's pretty darn good. There's no identifying characteristics in here that I really see as far as marking, but you can see the bolt-on neck right there, and some of the finish overlapping here. The body does not have any type of veneer or anything. This is the wood grain for that, and matched with this kind of walnut mahogany finish, it really does play its part well. In the circuit, the neck pickup reads 10.36k ohms, and the bridge position reads 10.7. So they're going to be slightly hotter than a PAF sound, but hey, we'll have to see how that goes. A tip for you if you have yours and your volume pots and tone pot just keeps the seam spinning and spinning and spinning, what you want to do is these just pull right off. You don't even have to unscrew anything like sometimes you will on these knurled knobs. And then just take one of these little wrench things here and tighten it up, and then that fixed that problem for me. Something interesting to note about these, see how stiff this switch is? That's a lot stiffer than on like a Les Paul that I'm used to. That could be good and bad. You won't accidentally hit it, but you might be playing and trying to flick it and then it doesn't move, so pros and cons there. The bridge on these are your standard metric bridge. They're vaguely based off of the Gibson ABR1. You can see it even kind of has the same identifier marks back here, but without any wording. But you can adjust those using a screwdriver, and they're in the body with posts. Same thing kind of going on with the tailpiece here. Not a lot of identifying characteristics, but you do have black hardware. I just finished cleaning the walnut neck here and polished up the frets. Two things I noticed. Here on the 11th fret, there's like some black or something right there. I was unsuccessful in cleaning that off. I don't think that's really going to affect anything. And then you have a little bit of like, looks like some finish got on the fretboard or something. I can't really feel anything there, so it just might be a weird spot in the wood as well. You have a black nut here. It seems to be your standard import styled one. And here's what your truss rod cavity looks like. You can see the buffing polishing compound still in there. The headstock features a Dean silk screen. And a little hint with these tuners, or whenever you're changing your strings on any guitars, same thing with those little control pots down there. You'll want to tighten these to help make sure you have a secure fit. Now that we've gotten to the back, we'll take a look at this route. You can see you've got a oblong route here, and then they just did it in like a rectangle shape. Now I'm a little bit worried that this guitar might not even work because this wire is not connected at all. So maybe I got scammed on the Facebook marketplace, but it looks like it would just be an easy fix if I can figure out where to put it. But we've got tiny overseas pots with a very basic 3-way toggle switch. But what really impresses me most about this is the finish feels really good. It's like a satin finish. And this bolt-on neck, yeah, it's a bolt-on neck, but it's got this really nice cutaway right here, so it's really comfortable to play it. You can get all the way up to the 21st fret. I mean, the 22nd is still a bit of a reach, but I love this design. It works out really well. You can see we have some discoloration in the finish right there, but I mean, that's pretty much natural. It's constructed with a scarf joint right here. It probably had some sort of identifying sticker right there at one point in time, and the "Don't Throw Me Away" sticker. And this is the serial number. I couldn't really tell you what it means though. And here is our tuners. This instrument has a 24 3/4 inch scale length with 22 frets. The nut width is 1.65 inches, and by the 12th fret, the width is up to 2.02 inches. Neck depth at first fret is 0.95 inches. And 0.93 at the 12th fret, which is kind of bizarre because that's the first neck I've ever measured where the 12th fret was slightly thinner. But it's a very nice even feeling up and down the neck. It's a pretty chunky neck for the most part. Definitely a very nice rounded C. This example weighs 7 pounds 3 ounces. Now that we've seen the insides of this guitar, let's go ahead and hear how it sounds. Now that we know how this guitar sounds and everything that it's made of, what is my final opinion of this guitar? I was very surprised by this thing. I was picking this up thinking it was just going to be kind of a cheap, not so good guitar that we could just make a funny review out of. But, you know, this is a really nice quality guitar. I've got to hand it to Dean. This isn't necessarily a guitar brand that I'm familiar with, not one I would really pick up off the store shelves, but I think they've got something going here with the EVO. This guitar speaks to me visually, so I think that kind of helps with some of that. But for being inexpensive pickups, I was surprised the way it sounded through my amps. Now granted, the amps I use cost anywhere between 4 to 6 times more expensive than this guitar, but that really gives it its true chance to shine, because that's the best way to get the best tone. Buy a fantastic amp and maybe skimp out on your guitar for a little bit until you can afford a better one or put more higher quality pickups in here. Here's my tonal assessment of this guitar. I thought the cleans sounded very good, but usually with any cheap guitar, it's pretty easy to get cleans to sound decent. The only thing I have to really knock on with this one is it kind of farts out when you hit it hard. So if you're looking for like a percussive clean style, this might not be the best set of pickups for you. Now I might be able to turn down the gain on my amp or lower my humbucking pickups to kind of counteract this, but that's just something I noticed. But this thing sounded fantastic on Sanitarium where you're just doing some really light picking. So great for that kind of stuff. Now, once I threw in the distortion, I felt like the whole sound was just missing the bottom end, but yet it was still muddy and kind of muffled at the same time. But I really didn't notice that until I listened back to the recording. In the room, it actually sounded pretty halfway decent. So if you're just looking for like a beginner metal type guitar or classic rock, I think you would be happy with these pickups enough just to leave them alone. They're not the best pickups in the world, but they are very good for this price point. The tone controls and everything worked great. The only thing I've got to say is this output jack. It kind of stinks. It was cutting in and out on me. It's a little bit loose. I mean, sure, some contact spray might fix that, but I think if you're going to buy this guitar, you're going to want to get it professionally set up. Something else I'm noticing is the nut. On this one anyways, the strings are kind of catching, especially on this D string right here. You can hear it go pink, pink, pink when you tune it up. However, as far as the tuning stability in general, I was super surprised by these tuners. Despite the nut not being perfect, this thing held tune pretty darn solid. I didn't really have to mess with the tuning very much, despite just putting fresh strings on this thing. The intonation was a little bit off on a few strings, but I can tell right here you have a room to adjust that. So again, as long as you get a basic setup on one of these, I really do think it's a solid beginner's instrument, or even intermediate if you just need something inexpensive to gig with. The fit and feel of the finish is professional. I'm actually really happy with this. But if you like super slim neck profiles, this one's probably not for you. So despite not necessarily being a brand I'm super loyal to, I would definitely recommend one of these, especially if you can pick it up used for around $100. Thank you Troglodytes for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.